So this is Philly and welcome to a tour of our garden. Currently both Moscow and I are having to work from home, so our garden is becoming probably the project that we're going to be working on while we're stuck kind of doing the right thing, staying indoors, but we can obviously explore our garden. Now, we don't have a very big garden. I wouldn't even say our plot's like 1/4 of an acre. Moscow's job is to mow the lawn, which is due. And then we had some landscapers come in and we got them to kind of put various things in place for us. And then I've kind of maintained from that. I'll start over here, which is the shed where Moscow sometimes does his talks from. It needs another paint. We painted it 3 times. And one of the things we have put in is a raised fruit bed. So everything in here is fruits and herbs. And then we are, this area before was all kind of completely uninhabitable. There were big trees all along the back of the garden. So what we've had done is we had decking put on because it wasn't, you can see our garden's much higher than the other gardens around, and it's sloped away. So they put decking out for us, and then we got this beast put in. Unfortunately, we've had lots of storms in the UK and it's not done that well in terms of those. It's lost the top of it. It's another job for us to do at some point. I've grown some more kind of like berry producing things, like all related to like brambles, but they're blackberries, and I think there's sunberry there, which is a plant my mum has. There might be some tayberry, but there's certainly blackberries. A lot of them fruit on their second or on their first year growth, so you can't prune them back hard. So we haven't had any fruit from these yet because they've only been in for a year. But hopefully this year, because I haven't pruned them very hard, we'll get some fruit. These aren't our fences behind, so by putting trellis that's our kind of height, we're growing things up them. So predominantly we've got honeysuckle, which I love because it keeps its leaf through the winter. So eventually, which is this one there, which you can see is like really bushy. So eventually, if that will grow all the way along, there's another honeysuckle there. But if they grow all the way along, then they'll provide us some screening, which will be really lovely. I mean, when we have friends over, we can close these bits, so we don't really want to overlook the neighbours. We've got some roses. This was a water butt project that I had. I had a little like fountain, but basically it's become home to all of the plants that I got for the pond that wouldn't fit because I have eyes bigger than my garden, and so I buy more than should go in. We've got a bed along here which is completely tatty. My bird feeder, which is my complete distraction at the moment because I work, like my window is directly opposite there, so I just watch the birds all day instead of doing work. But it's quite exciting, all the drama that goes on, and I like bird photography, so I love having this nearby. We also planted some beech, which are a native in the UK, but they've grown really, really slowly. The one that's growing really, really well is a privet that was in place already, and it's doing really well, so that's good. I don't know if they're not getting enough light, I don't know what's quite going on there, but there are lots of different perennials in here. I've weeded it recently, so it's really bare. But those should come into leaf quite soon, the perennials. I want to say this is a Jutsia. I think it is. So this is, I've had this about 3 years now. This cherry tree was a complete find when it's blossoming. Oh, that's so exciting. It was actually in a tub here already. And what we're hoping is, if I move backwards a bit, what we're hoping is that this will grow quite tall and then provide screening, because we have quite a lot of people overlooking. And next door is an old silver birch trunk that was chopped down, but unfortunately before we came here, I mean, if it's still been here I would have kept it. I love silver birch. What I've grown up here is passion flower, and I am really hopeful, I've got everything crossed, that, oh maybe not, or maybe right up there, I think it might flower. It's not yet flowered, and these passion flowers actually were freebies. They were growing in the front garden. And then I've just kind of moved them here to the base of this tree, and they're growing up really nicely. Hopefully they'll grow up and cover the bird box, so that something will move in. It's a bit exposed at the moment, squirrels can get to it and things like that. This bed is my like super perennial bed. In particular, it's got something called penstemons, which this is an example of a penstemon. I love penstemons. They have like trumpet-like flowers, a little bit like a snapdragon. They're brilliant perennials. They're really hardy. In my parents' house, we had no trouble with them. They're really good as well. They grow from a nice cutting, so you can make baby ones. And a rock rose, And then I've got some littler plants around here. There's a story why we have random rocks in the garden. More perennials. One's a Rockery, which is kind of like a sunflower flower, but it hasn't actually got any leaves on it, that one. There should be loads of penstemons here. As I said, they're really robust. However, we have a cat, and what I've discovered, I had a dog at my parents' house. This dog was never as bad as the cat. Cats like to do dirt baths in everything. I mean, you can see there's a dead penstemon, that cat there. So that's why we have all these sticks. There's flower pots. The flower pots are there to stop the cats from running around. You can always see the trails they've done. And unfortunately, they've killed pretty much everyone. So there's a little tiny miniature penstemon here that might survive. This was a beautiful bushy penstemon that is no longer. I always wanted to have a pond. So in my parents' house, we never had a pond. So one of the things was when they came in, they put the electricity and everything, they landscaped the pond. And what I asked for was a rockery at the back. But the landscapers, I don't think, had ever really made a rockery before. So what they did instead is, you can see there's some random rocks around the place, and they kind of cemented those in place. And there was nothing at the back. So it had like the stream going up, and that was probably as high as the dirt went at the back. And so I said it wasn't good enough. No, I wasn't that bad. My dad and Lawrence were really good, and they basically put this together. We were really lucky because in the front garden there were lots of bits of rock that just were kind of ornamental, didn't really have a purpose. So we moved a lot of those over. We broke up some of the clumps of rock they did, and we created the Rockery. And it's probably my favourite thing so far. It's the most established thing, because the lovely thing about rockeries is you can just like plant between the gaps. And I mean, it's quite dead at the moment, parts of it. You'll see over the seasons how much it gets like better. We've got this beautiful Japanese maple that's just come into leaf, that my mum donated me, because whenever my mum gets into a plant, when I was younger, if she liked one, I'd get like 10, and so she ended up with a huge group of acers or Japanese maples because of me. And then thankfully now I've got my own garden, and she's like, please take some off me. So she gave me this one. It was doing all right in its pot, but it's absolutely loving being in the ground. And so the hope is it will grow like on this side, and then we'll have the cherry tree on the other, and they'll create quite a lot of shade. And then here's kind of like working corner, quite a lot of working corner here. So these are actually all hornbeam, which is another native tree in the UK, another nice hedging tree. And we originally, I'll show you the bed they were in, we put them in there, and then we've decided that, well, I've decided, when I say we, Lawrence just goes along with what I say, but we've decided that might not be as appropriate to have them if they're going to get really, really big where we put them. So we put them in pots, and actually they're leafing really well, so that's good. And we'll either donate them to some other people or find gaps in the garden. And behind it is something that was here before, which is a hazel tree, which is absolutely gorgeous. You get loads of hazelnuts. We've got 2 compost bins. I'm all into compost, and if you want to know about composting, I don't know. I watch lots of people that do videos like this, and I love watching them, so who knows what my video will be like. This fence was horrendous when we moved in. It's technically not our fence, but in the end we decided to pay to have it redone, and I love it. I've grown climbers up it, and then we have the hornbeam in front, but the hornbeam will get so big we won't see the climbers, so we've taken them out, and this is going to be like my cottage garden bed. At the moment it's just full of lots of perennials. So over there, if you can see, there's some like lots of pods, but some shelving. So on that shelving is where I grow my seedlings. So the aim is that I will grow quite a lot of annuals that then will go in this bed alongside the perennials that are already here, to make it quite like cotton garden feel. I want bigger plants at the back, smaller plants at the front. And then along here we have even more stuff. So this is quite shady. Now this used to be my meadow bed, but I filled it with perennials. But it's a lovely little kind of corner. As I said, if you want me to go through all the different plants that are here, I'm more than happy to. But it is our little oasis in this kind of like strange times that we're in. It's just nice to have a little bit of an escape from the indoors, and the birds and all that kind of thing. So that's just a little tour of our garden. If you are interested in seeing more, if you are interested in plants and all those other things, which I highly doubt that most of the people that watch this will be, I'm more than welcome to like do some more in-depth tours. But here's our little garden, and this is where I sometimes put Marco to work. Bye!